and welcome back to the last and final part of Advanced Turn-Based Combat. We're going to be doing just a little more coding inside of the battle controller and our objects to make this game fully playable and ready for you to start adding in your own story if this is the kind of gameplay you are looking for. We're going to be adding in also a skills menu because Hello126 was asking if I would cover that, and it's something that I think fits in fairly well with this, and I'm going to cover the basics of how to set that up, and I'll show you how to do that. So let's go ahead and dive right on in. Let's open up the battle controller in our system. And we're going to go into the menu selection because what I want to do is actually allow the player to be able to escape out of whatever section of choices they are in. So if they are choosing an enemy and they don't want to actually attack for some reason, they'll be able to press escape and get out of choosing the enemy. And the same thing goes for choosing a player. If they've chosen the wrong one, we can do this and actually allow them to not choose that specific player. So this is actually a fairly easy thing to do. We're going to have this keyboard check for VK escape, and we're going to leave this one right here, but we're going to add in one thing. So this is like if they're selecting an enemy, we want to say selecting enemy equals false, but we also want to put them back to the menu selection. So is selecting from menu will equal true. And then we're going to come up here right past this escaping choice, and we're going to add in another way to back out. So we're going to say if keyboard, spell keyboard right, check pressed VK escape. So if they want to choose a different player to actually act with, we're going to say they are no longer selecting from the menu, but they are selecting a player. And that will actually just allow you to back out of wherever you are, which is just a nice feature because sometimes people misclick or they think of something they want to do after they've already pressed a button. So this just allows you to back up in each step of the way. Go ahead and press play and make sure that that works. The next thing we're going to do is go into the character parent, and we're going to add in an is active set for the characters as well, because we don't want to be able to choose dead enemies, and we also don't want to be able to choose dead players, and that's what we're going to set up in this last part. Okay, so I chose Sarah. I'm going to choose to attack. If I press escape, I'm back to the menu. If I press escape again, I'm here. Perfect. That's what we wanted. So let's go ahead and open up the parent for character parent. Inside of the create event, we'll come down here. We'll put an is active. We'll put that equal to true for now because we want it to be active for while they are alive and while they are starting, and they all start alive. So we're going to come into the step event, and we're going to add a piece of code here. And this is going to be setting their is active just like we did for the enemy. So we're going to check health, and if they are dead and they haven't been changed yet, we're going to set them to 0. And is active will equal false. And if they are no longer active, we're going to set their energy to 0 and their image alpha to 0.25 to make it look as though they are dead, which is what we want. And the last thing we're going to do then is inside of the battle controller, so we can exit out of this. We're going to go back into the menu selection one more time. So we're actually going to come in here, and what we're going to do is set up another if statement, check to see if what they are trying to choose is already, if the player is already dead. We're going to set this up with an and statement, so we're going to say player party, the one that's chosen currently, is active. And if that's equal to false, then what we're going to do is we're just going to pop up a message and say player is dead. This is a place where you can handle this event however you would want. You can set it to automatically go on to the next player that's alive. You can actually just show up a better message than just a dialog box, because this is actually for debugging purposes, but it works for what we want to do. or you can set up any sort of thing that you might want to try and do. It is completely up to you as the programmer to how you actually handle this event. You may also choose to just delete the player from the party. I don't know. It's completely up to you there. So this will say they are dead, and because this is actually in front of this, we're going to put an else here so that this statement can't happen if this one does, which will mean that they cannot select a dead player. And then we're going to come down to the selecting enemy, and we're going to do the exact same thing here. Enemy party, enemy chosen is active equals to false. Enemy is already dead. Put this as an else, and then let's run it. Now you cannot select a dead player, and you cannot select a dead enemy. A quick way to actually check the dead player code, well, it's very similar to the dead enemy, so if that one works, I'm pretty sure the player one will work. So let's go ahead and attack this bunny in the middle until he is dead and see what happens if we try to choose him again. Press space, enemy is already dead. Okay, so we cannot choose to attack him. So that means that it's also going to work on the player, but if you wanted to, a quick thing would be come in here and set up her health to 1 and then wait until she's dead and try to select that player. But I've tested it, that works fine, it works great. So that's what we need for that. So that finishes off the game itself, but for one thing, for the extra thing, I'd like to add in the skills menu because it only takes a few minutes as well. So let's go ahead and add in a sprite here. We're going to create a sprite, we're going to call this the SPR skills menu. And we are going to load a sprite. Here we go. So I've got a fairly large skills menu, but I don't actually want it this big. So we're going to come in here to transform. We're going to scale this down to about 40% of its original measurement. And we're going to trim it down. Okay. And we're going to center that up. And then what we want to do is go into the battle controller once more, because now what we're going to do is actually set up some variables and actually just create another menu choice. And when you choose that menu choice, it will just pop up the skills menu, overriding the original menu, and then you can choose from the skills menu. So what we want to do for that is come into the create event, because we want to add in several new variables to be able to handle the skills menu, because we don't have everything we need right now. So we're going to go ahead and put in a is choosing skills, draw skills, skill selection, and then skills menu. And all of those things we're also going to set up very quickly. So let me pull this out, see if I can get most of them on here. So is choosing skills will equal false to start. Draw skills will equal false to start. Skill selection will equal 0. And the skills menu is going to be just like this battle menu right here. So what we actually want to do is write up a couple of skills that we might have. And this is something that you could pull from a list, or you might have for specific characters if one was a mage and one was a thief, or whatever you wanted to do in that category. For what we're going to do is I'm just going to put up a couple generic skills that people might have. Just to show you how they work, because we've already pretty much done this, it's just a little bit different. And I want to show you exactly how you might add in another menu. And then we're going to come up to the battle menu, and right here we're going to put skills in. Now this kind of complicates things because we need to actually go to 3 to change the escape to number 3. But that means we need to come into the menu selection and come down here where we actually have the physical numbers typed in and change that to 3. And then I want to add in a skills menu choice right here. So if battle menu selection is equal to 2 and they want to use it, then we're going to let them use it. So we're going to say is choosing skills will equal true. We're also going to say is selecting from menu equals false, because they are no longer choosing from the menu. They're in the skills tree now, and I actually want that to override the other menu. So, perfect. Now we're actually going to come down here and also add in another statement and say if they are actually choosing from if they are choosing skills. So, if they are choosing skills, and we're going to comment this. So, kind of the same thing we've been doing, except that the menu will appear from left to right, kind of like the battle menu. So if keyboard check pressed, and we're going to go with D, because we're going to go left and right. So skill chosen, and we're going to do kind of the same thing with the clamp here again. So we're going to increase it by 1 with a minimum of 0 and the maximum of the skills menu -1. And then we're going to just kind of copy this, and we're going to say basically the same thing, except if we are going to the left. And we're going to say minus this time. And the last thing here is going to be, again, we want them to be able to back out of wherever they are. So if they press escape in here, we actually want them to go back to the menu. So if they'll be no longer choosing from skills. Instead, they'll be selecting from menu again. Okay, that sets up the choosing skills. Next, we want to go into the draw event, and we want to go into the battle menu options. You can add in a new section of code, or you can add it in here. It really doesn't matter. But we want to alter this first one, because now we only want to show it if they're in combat and they are not choosing skills. Because if they're choosing skills, we want to override it. So we're going to put another if statement down here. If they are in combat and they are choosing skills. Then we're going to do something very similar to what's right above it. The first thing we want to do is draw the sprite. So the one we've added in. And getting this exactly right can be pretty tough. I've got some code here that I have played around with that should be fairly similar. I might have scaled the sprite differently here, so we'll see how it looks, but hopefully it's close. So we're going to draw the sprite first, put the skills menu on there, then we're going to put up a for loop. I equals 0, I is less than array length 1D. You've seen this many times already. And what we're going to do is we're going to draw the text from the skills menu, again using the for loop to our advantage. I times 150 and skills menu. Now we also want to show which skill we are currently selecting. So if I is equal to skills chosen, then we want to indicate that we are actually choosing that. Now, this is, again, some numbers that I've worked out. Hopefully they work right here. But you'll get the idea that I am just putting in a rectangle to signify that they are actually choosing a specific skill and showing that. And that can be shown in a lot of different ways. It's completely up to you as the game creator. So that right there will allow us to actually start drawing the sprite menu to show the skills and be able to actually choose from one. Now, we won't actually be able to choose one because I don't have everything worked out for that. But basically, once you have this in place, you would just align your skills chosen, like your skill, whatever skill you're choosing, line that up with a specific sprite animation, play that, and then deal the appropriate amount of damage. And that's all things that you can work out on your own, I'm confident. This will just show you that now, look, I can choose between skills. If I press start or press spacebar, we get an error because skills chosen, I think I made a problem there. Let's see, what did I actually say it? I said skill selection here. So what we're actually going to do, let's see. I made that error quite a few places, so I'm going to go ahead and change it here to skills chosen and here, and we'll see if that actually works. Just because I know I've been actually writing skills chosen, I think the whole time. I just didn't create the variable as that. Whoops. Let's see. Yep, there we go. Okay, I pressed D and I got one more error. So again, this is just a typing error. I put skill chosen here. So when you choose a variable name, make sure you remember it and stick to it. So normal event, step 1, line 77. Okay, let's go into that. Line 77, skills chosen here and here, and we'll do a quick find, and I don't see any more. All right. Yeah, remembering variable names, typing them correctly. Yeah, that can be tough. Fortunately, GameMaker makes it very simple and tells you exactly what you're doing wrong. Okay, there we go. It's off just a little bit. Yeah, I didn't do that perfectly, but I'm not an artist, never claimed to be. But that is a skills menu. If I press escape, we go back to here, and I can attack. I can go back. You got a fully functioning game here. You can do everything you need to do, which is awesome, because turn-based games like these are, I think, the foundation of the RPGs, and they are just so much fun, and they can still be done really well today if they are interesting and have a good story. So, there you go. That is the Advanced Turn-Based Combat series. I hope you have enjoyed it. I have had a lot of fun making it, but it has been tough. The reason it's been tough is I will show you. I actually have it completed in a different section, and as I was going through live coding it for you guys, I came across problems where I wanted to make things simpler because they were so complex in my original code. In this code here, we have 112 lines, which is a fair bit, but if I come into my completed one, I've got 163 lines. Now, in here, I actually did a little bit more correction in being able to choose enemies, which just adds in a lot of complexity, which is really annoying and difficult to get across. The final project that I coded up here is available to download, and it actually doesn't allow you to choose a dead enemy or a dead player. Like it goes over them or below them if you are trying to choose them, and make sure that you can't even hover over them. And I like that a lot, but it adds in a lot of lines of code that are like an if statement, you've got a while loop, more if statements inside of the while loop, and then it's just so complicated. All of this is, if you press W to go up to select another player and they're dead, cycle through until you find an alive one. And there are just a lot of conditions that you have to check to make sure that you're not going out of bounds, that you aren't at zero, so it's kind of confusing. But it's here, and it is available to download. If you go and look back at the first part of this series, all of that stuff is available to download, and you can actually look at exactly how I did that. I did something a lot more simpler when we were coding it live, which still works great, I think. So, yeah, that's what I've got for you guys. Again, if you have any questions, comments, or have any suggestions for what you would like to see in the future, please leave them below. I get back to everyone who puts something down there, and I do take your suggestions, and I will make things out of them in time. But for now, have a great time making games, and I will talk to you later.